The room seemed to tilt slightly. When would you start? Zara asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. 2 months. They need an answer within the week. 2 months. 8 weeks and he would be gone, living on another continent. The thought opened a chasm inside her. You should take it, she said automatically, the words bitter on her tongue. It's a great opportunity. Caden reached across the table, taking her hand. Zara, look at me. When she did, his eyes were serious. This doesn't have to be the end of us, doesn't it? The old fear was rising in her throat. The same fear that had paralyzed her after David left 6 years ago. Long distance rarely works. It can if we want it to, Caden insisted. We could visit. I get holidays. You have summers off. And eventually what? Zara pulled her hand away. I move to Geneva? Leave my research, my position here? I was thinking we could figure it out together, he said, frustration creeping into his voice. This isn't just about my career or yours. It's about us. Us. The word hung between them, weighty with implication. Zara stood abruptly, needing space. There's no easy solution here, Caden. He followed her to the living room, catching her arm and turning her gently to face him. I know that, but I'm willing to try if you are. The sincerity in his eyes nearly broke her. He pulled her against his chest and she went willingly, breathing in the scent that had become so familiar. I'm falling in love with you, he whispered against her hair. That doesn't change whether I'm here or in Geneva. Zara closed her eyes, wanting to say the words back, but finding them stuck behind the wall of fear. Instead, she rose on tiptoes and kissed him fiercely, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. Caden responded instantly, lifting her until her legs wrapped around his waist. They moved to the couch, a tangle of limbs and urgent touches. Each kiss felt like both a promise and a goodbye, their bodies speaking what words couldn't express. Afterward, as they lay breathless and intertwined, Caden tried again. We should talk about this. Zara stiffened slightly in his arms. Not now, she said, pressing a finger to his lips. Just hold me. But as she rested against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, Zara knew they couldn't avoid the conversation forever. The clock was ticking, and soon she would have to decide, take a risk on love or retreat to the safety of solitude. You're being ridiculous. Caden's voice echoed through Zara's apartment, frustration evident in every syllable. I'm being realistic, she shot back, arms crossed defensively. What kind of relationship would we have with an ocean between us? A week had passed since the job offer, and what began as a discussion had escalated into their first real argument. The deadline for Caden's decision loomed tomorrow, and tension had been building between them like a gathering storm. People make long-distance work all the time, he insisted, running a hand through his hair in exasperation. We're both adults. We both have means to travel. For how long, Caden? A year, 2? And then what? One of us gives up everything? He moved closer, trying to take her hands, but Zara stepped back. It doesn't have to be forever, he said, voice softening. We could figure out a compromise. Maybe I could request a shorter contract, or you could apply for a sabbatical. That's not the point, Zara said, hating the tremor in her voice. The point is that we've known each other for barely 2 months. That's not enough to rearrange our entire lives. Hurt flashed in Caden's eyes. So what we have isn't worth fighting for. Is that what you're saying? I'm saying it's too soon to make these kinds of sacrifices. The words felt hollow even as she spoke them. That's bullshit, Zara, and you know it. Caden's voice had gone quiet, which was somehow worse than his shouting. You're scared. You've been scared since the beginning. The accuracy of his assessment stung like a slap. You don't know anything about it. I know you've been hurt before. I know someone left, and you're convinced I'll do the same. You are leaving. The words burst out before she could stop them. I'm trying to find a way to stay connected, he countered. You're the one pushing me away. Silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, Caden sighed, shoulders slumping in defeat. Take the job, Zara said quietly. You'd resent me if you didn't. And what about us? She swallowed hard, ignoring the pain blooming in her chest. Maybe this is where our paths diverge. Caden stared at her for a long moment, disbelief and hurt warring in his expression. So that's it? You're not even willing to try? When Zara didn't answer, he nodded slowly. I guess I have my answer then. He moved to the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. For what it's worth, I think we could have been extraordinary together. The door closed quietly behind him, and Zara collapsed onto the couch, the silence of the apartment suddenly overwhelming. 3 days later, Mel found Zara in her office, surrounded by stacks of research papers, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "You look terrible," her friend announced, perching on the edge of the desk. "Thanks," Zara mumbled, not looking up. "Caden accepted the position," Mel said carefully. "He's leaving next week." The news shouldn't have hurt. It was what Zara had expected. But the finality of it sent a fresh wave of pain through her. "Good for him," she managed. Mel sighed dramatically. "You're both idiots." "Excuse me?" "You heard me. You're throwing away something amazing because you're too scared to take a risk." "It's more complicated than that," Zara protested weakly. "Is it? Because from where I'm sitting it looks pretty simple. You found someone who challenges you, respects you, and loves you. And you're letting him go because of what? Fear, pride? Some misguided notion of self-preservation?" Zara looked up, surprised by her friend's bluntness. "What if it doesn't work?" "What if it does?" Mel countered. "What if this is your chance at something real and you're about to miss it? Can you live with that?" The question hung in the air between them. Zara thought about Caden, his laugh, his brilliance, the way he looked at her as if she were made of stardust. She thought about mornings without him, about never again feeling his arms around her, never sharing another discovery. "I've been such a fool," she whispered. Mel smiled, squeezing her hand. "Yes, but there's still time to fix it." Determination replaced despair as Zara stood up. "I need to find him before he leaves." "That's my girl," Mel said with a grin. "Go get your star-crossed lover." The university auditorium buzzed with anticipation as faculty and students gathered for Caden's farewell lecture. From the back row, Zara watched him command the stage, explaining complex propulsion concepts with passion and clarity. Even from a distance, she could see the shadows under his eyes, the slight strain in his smile that hadn't been there before. Her heart hammered against her ribs, the small box in her pocket suddenly feeling heavier. When the lecture ended and people began filing out, Zara remained seated, gathering her courage for what came next. "Professor Mitchell?" Caden had spotted her, surprise evident in his expression. "I didn't expect to see you here." The formal address hurt, a reminder of the distance she'd created between them. "Do you have a minute?" she asked, voice steadier than she felt. He hesitated briefly before nodding. "My office? It's mostly packed up, but we can talk there." The walk across campus was achingly silent, neither of them quite ready to break the tension. When they reached his office, Caden closed the door behind them, turning to face her with guarded eyes. "I made a mistake," Zara said simply. Before he could speak, something flickered in his expression. Hope, perhaps, or wariness. "Which one?" "Letting fear make my decisions." She took a step closer, relieved when he didn't back away. "I've spent years protecting myself from getting hurt again, building walls so high that nothing could touch me." "Zara, please let me finish," she interrupted gently. "The truth is, you scare me, Caden. Not because I think you'll hurt me, but because with you I feel everything so intensely. It's terrifying and exhilarating, and I panicked." His expression softened slightly. "I know you've been hurt before." "That's no excuse for hurting you," she said, reaching for his hand. When he allowed the contact, relief flooded through her. "I don't want to lose you. I don't know exactly how we'll make it work, but I want to try." Caden studied her face as if searching for doubt. "Long distance won't be easy." "Nothing worth having ever is," she replied, echoing words he'd once said to her. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out the small box. "This is for you." He opened it, brows furrowing in confusion at the sight of 2 identical keys on a silver chain. "What are these?" "One is to my apartment," Zara explained, heart racing. "The other is to the observatory. No matter where you are in the world, you'll always have a place here, with me." Caden's eyes glistened suspiciously. "Zara Mitchell, are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying I love you," she whispered, the words finally breaking free. "And I'm willing to cross galaxies to make this work if you still want to." Zara Mitchell squinted through the telescope's eyepiece, adjusting the focus with practiced precision. The university observatory had become her sanctuary over the past 5 years, a place where the chaos of Earth faded against the vast, orderly cosmos above. At 34, she'd built a respectable career as an astronomy professor, published in top journals, and cultivated a peaceful, if somewhat solitary existence. Professor Mitchell? The voice startled her, deep and resonant in the quiet dome. Zara turned, instinctively tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. The man standing in the doorway was tall, with shoulders broad enough to block much of the light from the hallway. His silhouette suggested confidence, maybe even arrogance. "Dr. Caden Reeves," he said, stepping forward with an outstretched hand. "Sorry to interrupt." Zara recognized the name immediately. The aerospace engineer whose innovative propulsion designs had revolutionized satellite technology. The man whose lecture tomorrow had the entire physics department buzzing with excitement. "Not interrupting," she replied, shaking his hand firmly. "Just checking equipment for tomorrow's demonstration." His hand was warm, grip strong but not overpowering. Up close, Zara noticed the laugh lines around his eyes that were studying her with undisguised interest. "I wanted to see the setup before tomorrow," he said. "Mind giving me a tour?" For the next hour, Zara showed Caden around the observatory, surprised by his genuine interest and thoughtful questions. Unlike many engineers she'd met, he didn't talk over her or assume superiority. Instead, he listened intently, occasionally challenging her theories with perspectives she hadn't considered. "Your approach to mapping exoplanet atmospheres is fascinating," he said, as they stood side by side at the computer console. "But have you considered incorporating the new spectral analysis techniques from MIT? Zara bristled slightly. "I have. Their methodology still has significant error margins when applied to distant systems." "Fair point," Caden conceded with a small smile. "But what if we combined it with your imaging algorithm? The complementary approaches might cancel out those errors." "We?" Zara raised an eyebrow. "I'm staying for a month as visiting faculty," Caden explained, leaning against the desk. The movement brought him closer, and Zara caught the faint scent of his cologne, something subtle and earthy. "My satellite project could benefit from your expertise in atmospheric composition detection." Zara hesitated. Collaboration meant sharing her work, her space, her carefully constructed routine. Yet something about Caden Reeves intrigued her professionally, and perhaps personally, though she'd never admit it. "I typically work alone," she said finally. Caden nodded, understanding in his eyes. "So do I usually. But sometimes the most remarkable discoveries happen when different perspectives collide." Their gazes locked, and Zara felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. There was challenge in his eyes, but also respect and something else. A spark of connection that couldn't be explained by professional interest alone. "One project," she conceded, "with clearly defined boundaries." His smile widened, revealing a dimple in his right cheek. "Perfect. I look forward to crossing those boundaries with you, Professor." Zara rolled her eyes but couldn't stop her own smile. "The professional ones, Dr. Reeves. Let's start there." "Of course," he replied, eyes twinkling. "For now." As he left the observatory, Zara turned back to her telescope, but her focus was gone. Instead of distant stars, she found herself thinking about the man who had just entered her orbit, wondering if their collision would lead to discovery or disaster. 2 weeks into their collaboration, Zara found herself checking the clock more frequently than usual. Caden was late. Not that she was counting the minutes or anything. "Looking for someone?" Zara jumped, nearly knocking over her coffee mug. Caden stood in the doorway of her office, casually leaning against the frame. His dark blue Henley brought out the sea green of his eyes and his jeans. Well, she wasn't noticing how well they fit. "Just wondering if you'd forgotten our meeting," she said, trying to sound nonchalant. "Not a chance," he replied, setting 2 paper bags on her desk. "I brought lunch. The cafeteria options looked bleak today." Inside the bags, Zara found gourmet sandwiches and fresh fruit. Such a simple gesture, yet no one had thought to bring her lunch in. Well, she couldn't remember the last time. "You didn't have to," she said, but accepted the food gratefully. "I wanted to. Besides, we need brain fuel for tonight." Zara paused mid-bite. "Tonight?" "The meteor shower," Caden said as though it was obvious. "The Perseids? Peak viewing is around midnight. I figured we'd take the portable equipment up to Ridgeline Point." "We never discussed this," Zara protested, even as excitement bubbled up inside her. Caden unwrapped his sandwich with a shrug. "Professional curiosity. The atmospheric data could benefit our project." "Right," Zara said, not believing him for a second. "Purely scientific." His slow smile told her he knew she wasn't convinced. "Purely. Hours later, they sat on a blanket spread across the hillside, scientific equipment momentarily forgotten as the night sky erupted with streaks of light. The meteor shower was spectacular, stars falling like cosmic rain above them. "Make a wish," Caden said softly, his shoulder brushing against hers. "That's not very scientific of you," Zara teased, but closed her eyes anyway, making a silent wish. When she opened them, Caden was watching her, not the meteors. In the silvery light, his expression held such tender intensity that Zara's breath caught. "What did you wish for?" he asked. "If I tell you, it won't come true," she whispered. "Some things are inevitable," Caden murmured, his hand finding hers on the blanket. Like gravity, the air between them seemed to vibrate with possibility. Caden's fingers traced light patterns on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. "Zara," he said, her name like a caress on his lips. "I've been wanting to do this since we met." He leaned closer, slow enough that she could pull away if she wanted to. But Zara found herself moving toward him, drawn by something stronger than logic or caution. Their lips met softly at first, a tentative exploration that quickly deepened into something more urgent. His hand cradled her face gently, fingers threading through her hair as he pulled her closer. Zara melted against him, all her carefully constructed walls crumbling under the heat of his kiss. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Zara looked up to see another meteor streak across the sky directly above them. "Maybe wishes do come true," Caden said with a smile, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Zara laughed softly, feeling lighter than she had in years. "Maybe some scientific phenomena can't be explained by equations." "Oh, I don't know," he replied, pulling her back toward him. "I think we might need to conduct further experiments to be sure." Their second kiss was deeper than the first, filled with promise and a hint of the passion simmering beneath the surface. Above them, stars continued to fall, but neither of them noticed, too caught up in their own cosmic collision. Morning light filtered through the blinds of Zara's apartment, painting golden stripes across the tangled sheets. Beside her, Caden slept peacefully, one arm draped protectively across her waist. Zara watched him, memorizing the curve of his shoulder, the shadow of stubble along his jaw, the slight part of his lips as he breathed. 3 weeks since their first kiss under the meteor shower, and somehow Caden had become integrated into every aspect of her life. Her colleagues had noticed the change in her, smiling more, leaving the lab at reasonable hours, even humming occasionally as she worked. "Morning," Caden murmured, his voice husky with sleep as his eyes fluttered open. "Morning," she replied, unable to suppress her smile as he pulled her closer. "What time is it?" he asked against her skin, pressing a lazy kiss to her shoulder. "Early. We don't need to be up yet." His hand slid up her side, leaving a trail of goosebumps. "Good, because I have plans for you," had become Zara's favorite. The comfortable silence, the domestic intimacy that should have terrified her but somehow didn't. "I got an email last night," Caden said suddenly, setting down his mug. "From the European Space Agency." Something in his tone made Zara's chest tighten. "Oh? They've offered me a position. Director of their new propulsion lab in Geneva." He watched her carefully. "It's an incredible opportunity."